What's going on, guys? It's Mr. Affleck9916, and welcome to episode 59 of the Jack Davis Road to the Show, playing here on the San Diego Padres. 12th game of the year, our ERA's at 0.77. We are just absolutely dominating, but what I want to talk about in this episode, yes, it happened. The Chicago Cubs won the World Series. Now, someone commented on my video from like episode 12 or something when the Chicago Cubs actually won the 2016 World Series on the simulation here in this Road to the Show. So I guess the MLB show kind of predicted that right a little bit, the Cubs winning it. But for the first time in 108 years, the Cubs won the World Series. I just want to tell the story of how I watched it happen. I was rooting for the Cubs. My favorite team is the Minnesota Twins, but I was rooting for the Cubs, and the main reason was I got the Indians here in Cleveland, which are rivals with the Twins. So, you know, they're not really a team I'm too fond of. And then, obviously, the Twins' biggest rivals, Chicago White Sox. The White Sox and the Cubs hate each other, so since, you know, it's like a rival of a rival, right? I guess sometimes in sports, the friend of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, something along those lines. That doesn't always apply, but in this case, it did apply. And that's why I was rooting for the Chicago Cubs as we finish off this save. We're going to get pretty close to 100 saves in this episode. As you can see, we're in the 90s now, but we're not going to reach it in this episode. I made sure that I didn't get to the point where we could reach it because I want to have that in the next episode because I wanted this video to be about the Cubs. So anyway, that's why I was rooting for them. And I watched every game except for Game 4, I think. Yeah, Game 4. That was the one that the Indians won to have a 3-1 lead. I was out that night because it was my college's Halloween party, so I was out on the street for the block party that the town puts on every year. It was pretty fun. Nothing crazy. I mean, there were like drunk people, and it's pretty funny stuff at a college party. What happens, people getting arrested, all that kind of good stuff. It's pretty entertaining. One kid climbed a street pole, actually, and started rocking back and forth on it because they had like this concert on the town. So that was pretty funny. The stuff goes on is pretty humorous, but that's the only game I didn't watch. I watched the rest of the series, and then Game 7, a bunch of people in my dorm were all sitting in, like, we have a commons area with a TV that I actually live right across. It's actually, like, if you exit my door, you're pretty much in it. And that's really all where I was watching it in my room because I was trying to get some work done. I was trying to study for a test that I took today that went pretty well, and I was also trying to work on YouTube videos at the time, stuff that I already uploaded yesterday. But that's kind of what I was doing, but I could hear them all screaming. The one guy, he's my RA. For those of you that are younger than college, your RA is like your resident assistant. He's kind of like the boss of everyone on the floor, you know, just kind of like make sure problems don't happen and all that stuff. He's kind of in charge. But anyway, he's from Chicago, so he was rooting for the Cubs. Everyone else was rooting for the Indians because if I've mentioned before, I go to school in Ohio. A lot of the kids that go to my school are from Cleveland. It's like a 3.5 hours from Cleveland, but a ton of people come to the school from Cleveland, so they were all mostly rooting for the Indians. Me and my only was rooting for the Cubs. I didn't go out until like the 11th inning, or not 11. There were only 10 innings. I only went out at like the 10th inning when the Cubs had taken the lead, and then I went out to watch that. And I watched the bottom half of the 10th inning, which was one of the most intense baseball games that I've ever watched. You know, the Cubs wait 108 years. As Jack Davis, by the way, lets up a 2-run home run right there. That's just the second time this season that he has let up runs. You saw where his ERA was. It was way down there at like .66. Unfortunately, that's going to raise it a little bit. I think it went up to like 1.8 after this game. But that's a 2-run home run for the Athletics. But anyway, Jack Davis... Jack Davis. I'm talking about myself, and I just said Jack Davis. Everyone out in the hallway, they were all going crazy the entire game, you know. When Rajay Davis hit that home run, you could see people in other buildings in their lobbies, because there's like big windows at our buildings. You could see them jumping up and down. Just the whole campus went crazy. I think the whole state of Ohio probably went crazy at that moment when Davis hit the home run to tie it. That was just an unbelievable moment. But then the Cubs took the lead and won in the bottom of the 10th, and me and my RA, we were really happy. We were hugging each other and all that. Everyone else was not very happy. Let's just say there were a lot of... I'm pretty sure the state of Ohio had exploded when Davis hit the home run, and then it exploded in swear words when the Cubs finally closed it out. But that's what happened, and boy, it was an amazing story. I read the day after the game that there's a guy that lived in North Carolina. His father was from like Chicago area, and he drove all the way up there to listen to the game at his father's grave because, his father had passed away a long time ago, because him and his father always listened to the Cubs games growing up, and his father said to him they'd always want to listen together when they won the World Series, and he wanted to be able to do that. So that was a pretty touching story. And then also there were a bunch of stories like people at Wrigley Field wrote the names of like all the Cubs fans who lived their entire life without seeing the Cubs win, loved ones of theirs. People wrote like their parents' names or grandparents' names, people who lived to be like 95 and never saw the Cubs win the World Series despite the fact that that's their favorite team. So I just thought those stories were really cool, and to me that's kind of when baseball becomes special, because to me that emotion doesn't exist in other sports. I mean, it exists in hockey up in Canada, but to me, that's where baseball's a truly special sport, because, it's just something that's such an American tradition, generations upon generations are baseball fans, and, I mean, it's kind of that way with football, but to me, baseball's the ultimate sport where it's like that, and that's one of the reasons baseball's my favorite sport, to be honest. It's because of that. Baseball is my favorite sport. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that on this series before, because I do some hockey videos on my channel. I love hockey. The Penguins won the Stanley Cup. It's a great sport, but nothing compared to baseball. That's the other thing, in baseball, each team gets their own chance to bat. It's not like possession can change. Just the way the game is played, top and bottoms of innings, and then the traditions, the 7th inning stretch, take me out to the ball game. All the things about baseball that have just stayed the same for so long, and to me, it's just the most enjoyable sport. It's relaxing. You can sit back and enjoy the game. It's a calmer game, which I personally like. Just everything about it was great. And then after watching that World Series, that made me remember exactly why baseball is my favorite sport. That game was so intense and so wonderful that it was one of the greatest things that I've ever done. It was one of the greatest games that I've ever watched in my life. I think only Game 6 of 2011, back when David Freese hit that walk-off home run for the Cardinals, that might be the only World Series game that I've ever watched that was better than that. The first World Series I watched was 2005. It was the year the Cardinals actually won the World Series, ironically. But that was the first year they had won the World Series. That was way back. And did they win? Or maybe they lost back then. I don't know. I'm forgetting who all these teams were back then, but 2005 was Chicago White Sox, so I think I watched before that. It was the year the Angels won. That was the first year I watched the World Series. 2002, I think, the Angels won. I was 6, and I've always watched the World Series ever since. It's a great sport, great tradition, and that's kind of my positive rant about baseball over with. And that's about it for this episode. As you see, Jack Davis got himself in a jam right here. It was 9-4, and then it ends up being 9-8. We got a runner on second. He's the tying run. I cannot blow this game. It would be my 4th run I let up in 3 games. I do get the next batter. He hits it on the ground to shortstop, throws it to first, and gets the out. So that's kind of good to see right there. Now we got 2 outs, and we need to finish off this game. First pitch is going to be fouled off. So, 0-1 count, we bring it to 1-1, and we get him to foul off another one. So it is now 1-2. Gonna try to strike him out with the pitch low and away. Here's the pitch. He swings and misses at a pitch in the dirt. We throw it to first, and we get the save. We're getting close to 100 saves, guys. It is gonna happen maybe or maybe not in the next episode. You'll have to tune in to see if we can do it. It's going to be a great episode, 100 saves special in the next one. But that's going to be it for this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed the World Series talk. Make sure you leave in the comments your thoughts on the World Series, even if you're rooting for Cleveland. Let me know. Let me know where you were watching it, your story. I'll leave you guys with this quote instead of saying my normal crap. Baseball was, is, and always will be to me the best game in the world. Babe Ruth.